Jessica, my wife, was tangled in the sheets, her bare shoulder peeking out, golden hair a mess. Her lips parted in shock, eyes wide like a child caught stealing from the cookie jar. And Nathan, my own brother, his arm was around her waist, his shirtless back facing me, frozen mid-motion. The moment stretched, silent but deafening, as reality caved in on me. What the hell is this? My voice was raw, torn straight from my soul. Jessica gasped and yanked the blanket up to her chest. Ethan, it's not what it looks like. Nathan scrambled, grabbing his jeans from the floor, fumbling like a damn coward. Ethan, man, just listen. I saw red. I lunged at him, my fist connecting with his jaw before I even registered moving. He stumbled back, knocking over the nightstand. The lamp crashed to the floor, throwing shadows across the walls. Jessica screamed, leaping between us. Stop it. You're overreacting. Overreacting. My voice cracked, a mix of fury and disbelief. You're in our bed with my brother, and I'm overreacting? She put a hand to her chest, like she was the damn victim here. It's not what it seems. We were just talking. I barked a laugh, hollow and cold. Oh, really? That's what we're calling it now. Nathan wiped blood from his split lip, his eyes darting around like he was looking for an escape. Look, Ethan. I'm sorry, man. It was a mistake. A mistake. Like she tripped and fell into bed with him. I shook my head, my hands trembling. How long? Jessica's eyes flickered hesitation. That second of silence told me more than I needed to know. How long? I demanded. She bit her lip. Does it really matter? That was it. The final nail in the coffin. I took a slow step back, my chest rising and falling like a storm was raging inside me. Get out. Jessica's face twisted. Ethan, don't be like this. Get out. My voice was steel, final. Nathan didn't need telling twice. He grabbed his clothes and bolted, not even looking back. Jessica had the audacity to scoff. You're acting like a child. She crossed her arms. We should talk about this. I turned away before I did something I'd regret. I heard her huff, then the sound of drawers opening and closing. She was taking her time. Minutes felt like hours, but finally, she walked past me, her perfume lingering like poison in the air. As she reached the door, she paused, glancing over her shoulder. You're not innocent either, Ethan, she said, her voice sickly sweet. You pushed me to this. And then, just like that, she was gone. I stood in the wreckage of my life, my own home now feeling like a crime scene. My hands were still shaking, my mind spiraling. The betrayal hit in waves, crashing over me, each one worse than the last. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I stood there for what felt like forever, staring at the wreckage of my bedroom, our bedroom. The sheets were tangled, the air thick with the sickly scent of perfume and sweat. My fists still ached from hitting Nathan, but the pain was nothing compared to the storm raging inside me. Jessica was gone. Nathan, too. But their betrayal lingered, clinging to the walls, the bed, the damn air. I grabbed a chair and threw it. It smashed against the dresser, sending picture frames crashing to the floor. One landed at my feet. I picked it up. Our wedding photo. Jessica in white, smiling like she had the world at her feet. Me like an idiot standing beside her, thinking I was the luckiest man alive. I hurled it across the room. The glass shattered. I needed answers. I grabbed my phone and called Jessica. Straight to voicemail. I dialed again. Same thing. That lying, cheating. Before I could think, I was out the door, into my truck, gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. I didn't even know where I was going, just that I needed to move, to do something before I lost my mind. Then it hit me. Her best friend, Emily. Jessica told Emily everything. If anyone knew how long this had been going on, it was her. I pulled up to Emily's apartment, barely remembering the drive. I pounded on the door like a madman. She opened it, her eyes widening when she saw me. Ethan, where is she? My voice was low, dangerous. Emily hesitated, Ethan, I don't think. I pushed past her into the apartment. Don't. Just tell me the truth. How long has she been sleeping with Nathan? Emily swallowed, her face pale. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me, Emily. I roared, my patience snapping. She flinched, but then her lips pressed together, and she sighed, rubbing her temples. Ethan, just go home. My blood ran cold. That wasn't a denial. I took a step closer. How long? Emily wouldn't meet my eyes. I don't know exactly, she said quietly. I clenched my jaw. Guess. Her silence was deafening. Then, finally, a few months. I stumbled back like she had punched me. Months. I felt sick. Emily sighed. I told her to stop, Ethan. I told her this was wrong. I let out a bitter laugh. Oh yeah? That really worked, didn't it? She winced. Look, she said she wasn't happy, that you were distant, that she felt unwanted. I stared at her. So she decided to screw my brother? Emily looked away. I'm sorry, Ethan. I turned to leave, but something made me pause. Where is she now? Emily hesitated. I don't know. Another lie. I grabbed my keys and stormed out. I drove around for hours, trying to clear my head, but all I could see was them. Jessica's hands on Nathan, her lips on his, the way she tried to gaslight me like I was the one who had lost his mind. By the time I got home, exhaustion weighed me down, but my rage burned hotter than ever. I stepped inside and froze. Jessica was sitting on the couch, completely calm, like she hadn't just ripped my life apart. She sipped from a glass of wine and looked up at me with a smirk. Oh, look who finally came home, she said, like I was the one who had been out betraying her. Something snapped inside me. I slammed the door shut behind me. You've got 5 seconds to tell me why the hell you're here, she sighed, setting her wine down. Ethan, can we just be adults about this? Adults? I barked a laugh. That's rich. Coming from someone who just got caught screwing my brother. Her eyes darkened, but she kept that infuriatingly smug look on her face. Look, if you're going to keep acting crazy, I'm not going to waste my time explaining myself. I took a step closer. Explain yourself? Oh, please enlighten me, Jessica. What possible excuse do you have for cheating on me with my own brother? She rolled her eyes. Rolled her damn eyes. God, Ethan, you're so dramatic. It just happened. Okay? Things between us have been dead for a while, and bullshit. I roared, slamming my fist against the wall. You didn't even try, Jessica. You just went straight to Nathan? My own brother. She crossed her arms. Well, maybe if you'd been a better husband, I wouldn't have needed to. I stared at her, my entire body shaking. You're unbelievable. She shrugged. I mean, I'm not the only one who's done things wrong in this marriage. Let's not pretend you're perfect. I took a slow, deep breath, trying to stop myself from losing control. Get out, she scoffed. Ethan, stop being childish. I said, get the hell out. For a second, she looked startled. Then she smirked. Fine, but you'll regret this. I didn't answer. I just stood there, watching as she grabbed her purse and strolled out like she hadn't just destroyed everything. As the door slammed behind her, my knees nearly buckled. I was done. This was war. The house felt hollow after Jessica left, like she had taken more than just her lies and betrayal. She had ripped out something vital, something I couldn't name. But the anger, that was still there, burning hot, keeping me standing when all I wanted to do was collapse. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them. Jessica's smug smile, Nathan scrambling like a damn coward, the way she had the audacity to gaslight me like I was the problem. By morning, my decision was made. She wanted to play games? Fine. Play too. I spent the morning going through everything, phone records, emails, bank statements. If she thought she could just slither away without consequences, she was dead wrong. And sure enough, the evidence was everywhere. Hotel charges on our credit card. Texts she had forgotten to delete from the cloud. Sweet little messages to my brother, stuff like, I can't wait to see you tonight, winking face. Ethan's so clueless, oh. You make me feel alive again. Alive. I nearly crushed my phone in my hand. They hadn't even tried to be careful. They had been laughing behind my back this whole time. Fine. Let's see if they'd still be laughing after I was done. I wasn't going to be like those guys who let their cheating wives walk away with half of everything while they got screwed over. I made an appointment with a divorce attorney that afternoon. The guy, Mark Reynolds, looked like he'd seen it all before. He barely blinked when I told him my wife was screwing my brother. Well, that's a new one, he muttered, scribbling something down. I leaned forward. I don't want her getting a damn cent from me. Mark nodded. You have a prenup? I clenched my jaw. No, he sighed. Then we have to play this smart. But if you can prove infidelity, it's going to work in your favor. I slid my phone across the desk. I have proof. He scrolled through the messages, his expression unreadable. Then he nodded. This is good. Really good. He looked up at me. If she thinks she's walking away clean, she's in for a rude awakening. That was exactly what I wanted to hear. But I wasn't just going to sit back and wait for the legal process to play out. Jessica thought she could humiliate me? She thought she could break me? Not a chance. I was going to make sure she regretted every single thing she had done. The first step was taking away her comfort. She was still using our joint accounts. That ended today. I went straight to the bank and froze the cards. I pulled my paycheck into a separate account. By the time Jessica realized what was happening, she wouldn't have a dime to spend. It didn't take long. An hour later, my phone rang. I stared at the screen. Jessica. I let it ring twice before answering. What? What the hell, Ethan? Her voice was sharp, dripping with irritation. Why are the bank cards declined? I smirked. Oh, figured since you were so independent, you wouldn't need my money anymore. She huffed. Are you serious? Ethan, don't be an ass. I leaned back in my chair. Oh, I'm the ass? That's funny. Coming from someone who just got caught screwing my brother. She sighed like I was exhausting her. Ethan, grow up. You can't just cut me off. Watch me. There was a pause. Then her voice softened. Ethan, I know you're hurt, but we don't have to make this ugly. I laughed. Oh, now you don't want things to be ugly? A little late for that, don't you think? She let out a frustrated breath. Ethan, I need that money. I smiled to myself. Not my problem. She snapped. You're such a child. I chuckled. You keep saying that, but I'm not the one who destroyed our marriage. She went silent. Then, after a long pause, she muttered, You're going to regret this. And she hung up. I stared at the phone, her words echoing in my head. I didn't know what she had planned, but whatever it was, I'd be ready. Jessica was out of my apartment, out of my life, or so I thought. I should have known better. For a few days, things were quiet. Too quiet. I went to work, hit the gym, grabbed drinks with friends who had no idea what kind of hell I had just crawled out of. Felt good to be normal again, to pretend none of it had happened. Then, one morning, I got a call from my boss. Ethan, we need to talk. I frowned. Everything okay? Just come in early. That was never a good sign. I walked into his office at 7 a.m., still nursing my first coffee. He gestured for me to sit. The tension in the room was thick. I got a concerning email this morning, he said, turning his monitor toward me. I leaned forward and read the message, and my blood ran cold. Subject, urgent complaint about Ethan Walker. I feel it's my duty to inform you that one of your employees, Ethan Walker, has been engaging in highly inappropriate behavior. He has a history of anger issues and has recently exhibited violent tendencies. I fear for the safety of those around him. Please take action before something terrible happens. There was no name attached, but I didn't need one. Jessica, that conniving, manipulative witch. I clenched my fists, forcing myself to stay calm. This is bullshit. My boss sighed. Look, I don't believe everything I read in an anonymous email, but HR needs to investigate. I leaned back, exhaling slowly. I know who sent this. Yeah, my ex-wife. She's trying to screw with me. He nodded. That's what I figured. But protocol is protocol. Keep your head down. Let HR do their thing, and this will blow over. I left his office furious. Jessica wasn't just trying to hurt me. She was trying to ruin me. She had taken my marriage, my home, and now she was coming for my career? Fine. If she wanted war, I'd give her one. I walked out of the office and straight into my lawyer's firm. Mark looked up from his desk, surprised. Ethan, everything okay? No, I dropped into the chair. Jessica's trying to sabotage my job now. Can we use this against her in court? He exhaled sharply. If we can prove it came from her, yes. Do you have any direct evidence? Not yet. He rubbed his chin. Then we need a different approach. I crossed my arms. Like what? Like getting ahead of her. Jessica thought she was smart, but she forgot one thing. I knew her. I knew how she operated. And I knew exactly where to hit her where it hurt. I left Mark's office with a new plan. First, I needed to prove she was the one behind the email. I called an old friend, Eric, who worked in IT. Can you trace an anonymous email? I asked. He whistled. Depends. Got any leads? I sent him a screenshot. Bet you $100 this came from my ex-wife. He chuckled. Damn, dude. What did you do to piss her off? Married her. A few hours later, Eric texted back. Gotcha. Email came from a public Wi-Fi coffee shop near her gym, but she used her personal iCloud to send it. Sloppy. I smirked. Jessica always thought she was smarter than everyone. Turns out, she was just lazy. I sent the evidence to Mark. His response was immediate. Perfect. I'll take it from here. It wasn't long before Jessica called me. I let it ring. She called again. And again. By the fifth call, I picked up. What? Are you seriously suing me? I smiled. Oh, you found out? Good. Her voice was shrill. You can't be serious, Ethan. I was just trying to get me fired? I cut in. Yeah, I noticed. She huffed. Oh, come on. That was just a joke. I laughed. A joke? You tried to ruin my career? And I'm supposed to think it's funny. She switched tactics. Ethan, let's just talk. No. Her voice softened. Please, meet me for coffee. One last time. I hesitated. Jessica was dangerous. Not in the physical sense, no, she was the type who played people. She could twist words, rewrite history, make you question everything you knew. But I wasn't that guy anymore. I had nothing to lose. Fine, I said. 1 hour. We met at the same coffee shop where she had sent the email. She sat across from me, all fake smiles and fluttering lashes. Ethan, do we really have to do this? I leaned forward. You tell me. Why the hell are you trying to destroy my life? She sighed dramatically. I was hurt. I scoffed. Oh, you were hurt? You cheated on me with my brother, Jessica. She pouted. I was lonely. I rolled my eyes. Save it. You don't get to play the victim. She tilted her head. What do you want from me? I smirked. Nothing. Just letting you know you're going to lose. Her mask slipped for a second. You don't have a case, she said, a little too quickly. I pulled out my phone and slid it across the table. I do, actually. She glanced at the screen. The email trace. Her iCloud login. Proof. For the first time, she looked nervous. Ethan, she started. We don't have to do this. I picked up my phone. Oh, but we do. Her nails tapped against the table. Fine. What do you want? I leaned back, grinning. That's the question, isn't it? Her eyes flickered with something, fear, maybe. For once, she wasn't in control. And damn, it felt good. I watched Jessica's face as the words settled in. Her carefully constructed mask of calm was slipping, revealing something raw and desperate underneath. For once, she wasn't the one holding the reins. The irony of it tasted sweet. She didn't speak right away. Her gaze darted to the phone on the table, then back to me, as if trying to gauge if I was bluffing. I wasn't. I don't know what you think you're doing, Ethan, she finally muttered, her voice low and laced with something like fear. You're only going to make things worse for yourself. I leaned forward, my fingers tapping against my coffee cup, watching her squirm. You know, it's funny you should say that. I've heard that line before. I paused, letting the words hang in the air. Only it was you saying it. And you were the one making things worse. Don't you think it's a little late for that kind of talk? Jessica's lips pressed together, and I could see the gears turning in her head. I could almost hear her calculating her next move, the way she always did when she was backed into a corner. But this time I was the one in control, and I wasn't going to let her wriggle out of it. "You're making a mistake," she said after a moment, her voice steely again. "You really think you can win this? Do you think anyone's going to believe you over me? You're the one who's going to look like the villain, Ethan." I snorted. "I'm the villain? Look at yourself. You destroyed everything we had, not just for me, but for yourself too. You've made your bed, Jessica, and now you're going to have to lie in it." Her eyes flashed with annoyance, but she quickly masked it. "I'm not the only one who made mistakes here. You've been checked out of our marriage for months. You weren't there for me. I had needs, Ethan, and you just ignored them. I didn't want this to happen. I really didn't, but you made me feel invisible. And Nathan." I cut her off, my voice rising. "Nathan? My damn brother? You seriously expect me to believe any of this garbage?" Her eyes flickered, but she pressed on, trying to spin her tale. "It wasn't about Nathan, okay? He was there when I needed someone. When you weren't." My blood ran cold as her words hit me like a freight train. "You've got some nerve," I muttered. "You didn't just sleep with him. You betrayed me in the most disgusting way possible. And now you're sitting here trying to make it sound like I'm the problem." She opened her mouth to say something, but I wasn't having it. "You don't get to turn this around on me," I spat. "You don't get to make me the bad guy in this story. Not when you're the one who screwed my brother behind my back." I leaned back in my chair, my anger simmering just below the surface. Jessica was no longer the woman I had married. She was someone else, someone I didn't recognize, someone I despised. "You really think Nathan gives a damn about you, don't you?" I asked almost rhetorically. "You think he's your knight in shining armor, but he's just as much of a coward as you are. He's not going to fight for you when it gets ugly. And believe me, it's about to get ugly." Her eyes narrowed. "You're threatening me now?" "Not a threat, a promise." I paused, letting her absorb the weight of my words. "I'm going to destroy you, Jessica. Not physically, but every other way. You're not going to walk away from this without consequences. And if you think your little email stunt is going to work, you're sadly mistaken." The color drained from her face. She opened her mouth to retort, but I raised my hand to stop her. "No more lies. No more games," I said. "I've had enough. If you want to keep playing dirty, fine. But I'm done being your punching bag." Her expression softened, just for a moment. Then she sighed, shaking her head like she was trying to dislodge some deep regret. "Ethan, I never meant for it to go this far. I couldn't take it anymore. Then you should have left me. Instead, you decided to destroy everything." I shot back, my voice cold. "This isn't just a mistake, Jessica. This is deliberate. You didn't just hurt me, you hurt yourself. And now you're going to have to live with the fallout." Her gaze shifted away from me, as though the weight of the words were sinking in. For the first time since we'd started talking, she looked vulnerable. Small even, but I wasn't buying it. "You want me to feel sorry for you?" I asked. "You want me to care about your loneliness and needs?" "I didn't expect you to," she murmured, her voice breaking. "I just wanted you to hear me out." "Well, you had your chance," I said, standing up. "And now you're going to have to deal with the consequences. Because I'm not letting you get away with this." Her face twisted, a mixture of anger and sadness. "You're just going to destroy everything, aren't you?" "No, Jessica," I said, my voice firm. "You did that." I stood up and turned to leave, but I heard her voice one last time, soft but full of venom. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "You'll see. No one's going to be on your side." I didn't answer. I just walked out, the door swinging shut behind me, leaving her to stew in the mess she had made. Days passed, and the reality of what I had done started to settle in. Part of me still couldn't believe that I was here, sitting in the ruins of a life I thought I had. But the other part, the part that had been buried under all the anger and betrayal, was starting to feel a strange sense of clarity. Jessica was gone. Nathan was nowhere to be found, and I was left to pick up the pieces of my shattered life. But there was one thing I knew for sure. I wasn't going to let this be the end of it. No matter how painful it got, I was going to fight. I had to. I spent hours meeting with my lawyer, making sure every step I took was calculated. We were already working on the divorce petition, but I wasn't going to let her walk away with a dime. I knew she was planning her next move. She was always 5 steps ahead of me when we were together. But now it was my turn. The first blow came when my boss called me into his office again. "Ethan," he said, his voice low, "I need to talk to you about the situation." I braced myself. Jessica had undoubtedly made her move, trying to paint me as the bad guy, but I wasn't going to let her win. "I know you've been through a lot," my boss continued, "but HR is still investigating the claims made in the email. We need to make sure everything is in order." "I'm not saying I believe it, but—" "I get it," I interrupted. "But you know I'm not that guy. You know I wouldn't hurt anyone." He nodded. "I do know that, but HR has to follow protocol." "Fine," I said, keeping my tone steady. "I'll play by the rules, but just know that she's behind this. And when it all comes out, I'm not the one who's going to look bad." My boss gave me a tight smile. "I'll keep that in mind." But I knew that wasn't the end of it. Jessica had pulled a dirty move, but I was getting better at this game. I had the evidence, I had the lawyer, and now I had the patience to wait for her to slip up. Soon enough, I got another call from her. She sounded desperate this time, her voice cracking. "Ethan, please, we need to talk." I had no intention of talking to her, but that wasn't what I said. "Fine, come over. Let's finish this." She didn't hesitate. I could almost hear her breathing faster on the other end of the line. "I'm coming," she said, and I could hear the resolve in her voice. "And this time, it's really over." I sat in the courtroom, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on me. Everything I had worked for, justice, the restoration of my dignity, and finally the end of this painful chapter of my life, now depended on every word I would speak. Marco sat next to me, carefully reviewing the documents. My ex-wife sat beside her lawyer, who appeared confident but slightly nervous. I knew she wanted to win, but this time, she wasn't in control. I held all the cards. "Are we ready?" the judge asked, looking up. "We're ready," Marco replied shortly, casting me a glance, and there it was. The feeling that my life, which had been dragged through the mud, was now on the cusp of a new beginning was overwhelming. I stood when the judge asked me to speak, and for a few seconds, I looked at my ex-wife, who couldn't even bring herself to look at me. All those years of betrayal and lies. Here we were, and I was ready to crush her in the courts. She had nothing left but silence. "Your Honor," I began, my voice trembling slightly with a mix of anger and determination, but I wasn't backing down. "My ex-wife chose to betray me, and not only that. She chose to betray me in the worst way, by involving my own brother, as though I were irrelevant. I am here today to preserve my dignity and seek justice, because my own family put me in a situation I could never have imagined." I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. "I've gathered all the evidence. Private messages, recordings, public posts. They didn't even try to hide their betrayal. This wasn't a coincidence. It was planned. And now, my goal isn't just to punish them for what happened. My goal is to show that even in the darkest situations, the truth will always come to light." My ex-wife tried to speak, but I didn't give her the chance. All those years of deception, of trying to control me, it was all behind me. Now I was ready to stand firm on my principles. I asked the court to ensure a fair division of assets, taking into account that my wife, without any justifiable reason, betrayed me and violated all the principles of our commitments to one another. I continued, looking directly at her. "She didn't just destroy our relationship. She undermined our life choices. I want to ensure that she can no longer use my resources to manipulate me or humiliate me." The judge looked at us, listening intently, and then spoke the words I had long awaited. "The evidence you've presented is strong enough to determine fault," he said, glancing at my ex-wife and her lawyer. "You understand that betrayal is a serious breach of marital duties." My ex-wife's face was blank. She was broken. I knew she had hoped for some way out, some chance to salvage her position, but I wasn't giving her any. I stood my ground, keeping calm, though inside, I felt a sense of relief begin to wash over me. She no longer had power over me. A few days later, the court announced its decision. "Your wife will be held accountable for the breach of marital duties, and the court has ruled on the division of assets. She will not receive a portion of your wealth, and additional restrictions will be placed on her financial dealings." When I left the courthouse, I felt like the stone that had weighed on my shoulders for years had finally been lifted. I was free. Free from deception. Free from betrayal. Free from the memories that had haunted me. Now I was ready to build a new life. Not right away, but with each new step, I could feel my confidence growing. I no longer needed her or her manipulations. And though the past had left a mark on my heart, I was ready to move forward, leaving only the lessons this experience had taught me behind. And this ending, it was a victory for me.